nice and quiet. I get a lot of people saying, who the hell runs 32 miles an hour? Nobody really. It's just, why not? If we want to make it 40 miles an hour, we'll make it go 40 miles an hour. But really, nobody can run, okay, 30 miles an hour, okay? Super quiet. Crank it up, crank it up. Put it 25, okay? So here's the theory behind high speed. For those it's been around a long time, really taken to the forefront by an individual by the name of John Fricke. Okay, and if you look up John Fricke, in my opinion, okay, he's definitely the godfather of high-speed treadmill training. But John Fricke, kind of a mentor of mine, he actually really kind of put me in front of these things, taught me about him, showed me about him, gave me the confidence to train athletes on it. The guy's a phenomenal individual, North Dakota, good old boy, smart as a whip, amazing individual. He's the one that came up with this, okay? He came up with it because he went to Russia for a 2-year stint, I believe, and he saw the Russians back in the late 70s, early 80s, basically whipping the United States ass and everybody else in the world because of not only necessarily their technology and some other things that they've been doing for a long time, but everything we know from a standpoint from speed development, strength development, all came out of the Eastern Bloc countries and Russia. And those guys were phenomenal. John went over there. How he got over there, I don't know, but he was able to spend 2 years with the Russian scientists and physiologists to duplicate what we call the fast twitch response. Okay? And it's what you gotta understand. And what I come across all the time are coaches saying it doesn't work because it's not the same as running on the ground. Okay? We get that, we understand that, I know that. Yes, it's not the same. Okay? But it goes back and it has evolved to where we are today, that it's all about the central nervous system. And I believe now with those guys from Fast Twitch, okay, that we can prove that what's going on from a central nervous standpoint cannot be duplicated on the ground, okay, like we can do it on the high-speed treadmill. Okay, because a high-speed treadmill is forcing you to do something that you're not going to do on the ground. Okay, it's just impossible to do it. And when I show you the high-speed stuff and some of the stuff we do, you're going to understand that yes, somebody can't. They're not going to get off a high speed at 20 miles an hour, go to the turf and automatically run 20 miles an hour. It doesn't work that way. Okay? Is your body capable of doing it? Hell yeah, it's capable of doing it. The human body is a phenomenal machine. Okay? But he's not going to get off, go on the turf and automatically run 20 miles an hour. But what you're going to do is you're going to force that central nervous system so when they get on the turf or they get on the field or they get on whatever they're doing from an athletic standpoint, they're going to be able to tap into their central nervous system, okay, and turn on that central nervous system to be faster, to be stronger, and be quicker. Okay? So yes, do I know that it's not the same of running on the ground and doing everything else? Yes, I get that. No shit. I understand that. Okay? But I'm telling you right now, we're about to change things with the technology we have with us today. Okay? So with that said, just real quick, I want these guys from Fast Twitch to be able to get up here and talk. Okay? Another cool thing, okay? When we get Dario on the harness, it goes all the way from the back, it goes all the way to the front. It's basically, this is what we call a speed harness. We have a rehabilitation harness. This is a harness to catch you in case you slip and you shoot off the back, all right? Rarely happens, but it's there for safety purposes. Make sense? Okay? We don't use it a lot, just for over speed runs, all right? Front bar. The way the front bar is designed is when we get these athletes up here, okay? You want to talk, well, I call it the lumbo-pelvic hip complex. We know now that everything happens from the hip out. Okay? It's not your quads, it's not your hamstrings. It's what we call the lumbo-pelvic hip complex. The muscles that surround the pelvis are the key to everything movement-wise in the human body. Okay? And I think everybody here will agree with that. It's just we are starting to learn now, okay, that that's the case. All right? It's not quads, it's not hamstring, it's glutes, it's lateral, it's medial, it's front, it's back. All right? We're able to duplicate that and to strengthen that by doing, okay, the things that we do on the high-speed treadmill. You've got to understand, okay, what I've done everything on this. I've made every possible mistake from off-weighting athletes to the high speed. I've made every mistake you can possibly make on a high speed. Now I know better, okay, and what I do know is you cannot solely, okay, focus your attention on a high-speed treadmill and expect somebody to get faster. You have to add in vertimax. You have to add in your land-based programming. You have to do your strength programming, all that. But if you can tie it in with the high-speed treadmill, you've got something important, okay, something that nobody else at this point, okay, has. So with that said, ring the hold. One grip, okay. I'm sure everybody has seen this kind of stuff. Stay tall, yep, tight, up. Okay, what's going on right there? Okay, here's the key. Okay, as Gario's holding on, one biggest thing that has to happen, as soon as he grips that bar, all right, your spine has got to lock down. Okay? And here's the thing, is if you don't deserve to be on a high-speed treadmill and you've done your assessment correctly, if you do a functional movement screen or whatever screen you're doing, if they don't deserve to be on a high-speed treadmill, don't put them on a high-speed treadmill. It's just like a kid that can do a bodyweight squat, okay? If he can't do a bodyweight squat without some kind of compensation, don't put him under a squat rack and make him squat 250 pounds. The body doesn't work like that. You have to stabilize. It's movement, okay, performance, and then skill. So to get on a high speed, you have to understand, I don't just take kids through here and run them 20 miles an hour. The body doesn't work like that. You have to train, once again, that central nervous system. You don't train it and you don't do it right, then that's what's going to happen. That's when injuries happen. That's when somebody says, those don't work because all they do is hurt people, right? Those only hurt people because you train them, okay, ass backwards, all right? It's like squatting. Don't squat somebody that doesn't know how to squat. That's where low back pain comes into play. Okay, don't deadlift somebody that doesn't know how to deadlift. Okay, movement, performance, skill. So to be able to get to this point, okay, you have to be stable. Once again, you grab that bar, your spine locks down. Okay, anytime you hit a baseball, your spine has to lock down. Anytime you kick, your spine has to lock down. Anytime you burst out, your spine has got to lock down and your hips have got to be moving right. Okay, that's a cool thing about this. All right, so real quick, how this works is one, you get that core activation and that lock. At that point in time, your core has got to fire at speed, okay? You can't fire your core at speed doing bridges. You can't fire your core at speed doing crunches. All those are good, okay? But at speed and game speed, it's the best way you can condition your core. Okay, so when he locks down, your core's tight. Second thing that's going on, okay, is now your hips are moving from underneath you. You have to control that with your hips. Not your quads, not your hamstrings, they come into play, but you better be strong right through here or things are gonna start breaking down, your hips gonna tilt down, okay, and bad things are gonna happen. But if you train them right, okay, there's nothing better, okay, for core conditioning, okay, and lumbar-pelvic hip conditioning than a high-speed treadmill. I promise you that. Okay, so here's what's going on. So real quick, okay, as he locks down, okay, and as the knee comes up, his foot hits that platform, the treadmill pushes it back. You were just talking about this, is the hip flexor really doesn't, as you said, go ahead and say what you said, please, so I don't get it wrong.
No, there's a study that came out, a very widely read study that said the hip flexor had nothing to do with top end speed. And I kind of disagreed with it. I did some research and I made a couple phone calls. And what they found was that with an athlete's running a 9.6 or a 10 flat 100 meter, measuring how fast their leg comes back in recovery phase is almost the same for all athletes, which really surprised me. But there's something they didn't consider. So, and the reason that hip flexor strength apparently they thought didn't make a difference is that our hip flexor, when you enter recovery phase and you bring your foot this way, back to ground strike, our hip flexor is actually overpowered. We got an average Joe has more than enough strength in his hip flexor to bring his leg back. What they failed to recognize is that if the hip flexor is weak and you're running, your pelvis is going to start tilting back because the hip flexors are weak. And when that happens, your glutes don't fire as effectively. And the study said what impacts top end speed is ground strike force. That's it. Okay, so what happens is that they didn't think about it. The weak hip flexors, your hips get out of position, your glutes don't fire effectively, you lose ground contact force. And that's a key. Yeah, it doesn't, everyone can move their foot back, whether their hip flexors at 90 or 85% max strength, but they lose power on ground strike if their hip flexors are weak and the hips are out of position.
And for every, 10 degrees of anterior tilt, you lose 6 inches of stride length. One of the two factors of speed, stride frequency, stride length. So you see guys, have you ever seen squatter ass? Guys walk around like that, There's something going on at the hip flexor, Mike's exactly right. You have to get that pelvis into a position to where you can fire your glutes and bring that knee into triple flexion to get to everybody wants triple extension. The way to do that, right? Okay, hip flexor strength, glute strength, lateral and medial stability. We're gonna get to that in a minute. On the desk back there, I think I have it, is there's a small binder that I put together. There was a study done probably 10 years ago, just on that factor right there, by a guy named Steve Swanson. Super smart individual, okay? I'll give everybody that study. It talks about the hip flexor velocity. But what's going on, what's happening is that as that foot comes through, right, that hip pushes back. You get that stretch reflex. Everybody knows what a stretch reflex is. The greater the stretch on a muscle, the greater the resulting contraction. Okay? That's how muscles work. They're not stiff, solid things. They're loose, elastic, all right? And if you can manipulate that stretch reflex, get that stretch reflex greater, you're going to have a greater resulting contraction if you're stable. Okay? That's what happens when you get on the... Do one more. Hold there. 9 fast, 9 fast, 9 fast, 9 fast. Hold that bar tight, 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 tight. Great functional way to do it. Okay? Now, say Dario's a high-end athlete, right? We know he's strong, he's stable, his hip flexors are going. Okay, now this is where Vertimax comes into play. And I, out of necessity, at IAP up in Ocala, I started using the Vertimax because I wanted to be able to manipulate that stretch reflex just a little bit more. And when somebody's strong enough to do it and they're able to stabilize that pelvis, just like we talked about, you can add resistance to it to get more of a stretch, to get more of a resulting contraction. The more resulting contraction here, the more pop you get into the ground force reaction, you turn it over, you get into triple extension, boom, triple flexion. Okay? So to manipulate that just a little bit, I'll go there and grab the bar. And here's the cool thing about the Vertimax that I saw. The best thing about the Vertimax is it's a constant tension. There is no release of tension. If you get a release of tension, okay, then the stretch reflex we're trying to get, okay, completely goes out the door. All right, the central nervous system will start trying to compensate somehow. All right, the cool thing too about the Vertimax, okay, the attachment point right here and right here. Sometimes I see cords and I just, okay, they attach at the distal part. Okay, you start getting distal. I don't care how strong you are. You could be Dario, you could be Rob Henry. Nobody is strong enough to have a resistance on that ankle without compensating, okay, retro-antro. When that starts happening, okay, you lose this and this, okay? That's the cool thing about this attachment point right here, okay, is it functionally puts stress on this hip flexor, okay, and that big ass of his, okay? And those two key factors are the two key muscles, in my opinion, okay, to speed development, right? You could have big quads, you could have big hamstrings. You don't turn your hip flexor on, you don't turn your glute on, you're not an athlete, right? So hold the bar tight, right? Watch how the Vertimax works, okay? I think the way this is set and the way it moves up underneath through that pulley system is brilliant, okay? And it's a constant tension. There's no release of tension. It's tight the whole way when he moves his leg. Ready? Go. High and fast. Yeah. Come on. Get him up. Up! Right? Yeah. Right? Good. Super cool. All right? It's in combination with what he's doing on the ground, okay? What people do with the Vertimax is, here's the cool thing too. Everybody's doing the same kind of stuff with the Vertimax, all right? But you add this into it and you add the Vertimax into it, it's a game changer for speed, in my opinion, okay? Do I know that for sure? Personally, yes. These guys are going to prove it. Okay? Second, one key factor that nobody really takes into play as far as speed is concerned, okay, is upper core stability. Okay, arm movement. Your arm movement, okay, dictates lower body movement. Okay? Have you ever seen anybody run with their arms stiff? You see good sprinters, I mean, they are boom and boom, or they're taught to run 90-90. Okay? For you to have that whip and to get your leg up, your arm has to come into this position, okay, and it has to extend and then whip back through. Okay? Longest time I used to get hand weights and run with hand weights to try to minute. Once again, you can get that stretch reflex from here. Okay? I started doing it on the Vertimax. Automatically, somebody who has a crappy arm drive uses that Vertimax, and that Vertimax automatically forces that arm back. As soon as you force that arm back, boom, you're gonna pop back up. When this pops back up, okay, automatically you get that cross reference. Okay? That's how your body works, right? Okay, you don't run this way. You have to have cross symmetry. And when your arm comes up, boom, your leg comes up. Okay, and this is the best way I have seen, okay, for that upper body mobility. And Nomax does it right now. Start doing arm drive, just back just a little bit. Okay, back up there. I always say handcuffs. Okay. Once again, it's a constant tension. Okay, that Nomax is going to force him to get that arm back and then boom, slam it up. Okay? Hold that bar tight and get on the strap. Okay? Hard. Please hold, hold. You go drive. Up. Boom. Pump them out. Next guy gets on. Boom and go. This is the best way I have seen, okay, or that I have done, okay, to get that upper body moving fast. Because without your arms, your lower body doesn't work. That's just the way speed is done. Okay? Super cool way to do it. All right? One more time.